Celtics fall 97-89 to the Raptors. We're back at it. Season 2 of the Garden Report starts next. Welcome back for Season 2 of the Garden Report. My name is Jared Weiss from CLNSRadio. With me, as always, Evans Clinchy from Celtics blog. Jimmy's missing. We'll find him next week, hopefully. But the Celtics hopefully will be able to find a rebound tonight, or they couldn't tonight.
Not too many of them, no.
Not really. 6 in the first half and 20 in the second half, which is actually pretty good. But they fall to the Raptors 97-89. I had to double check that because it's the preseason and the score means pretty much absolutely nothing.
Mostly for the Celtics, right?
Yeah. And let's talk about the offensive system for the first section of the show. And we weren't really expecting it to be a very dominant offensive system because it's pretty much discombobulated from last year. But what did you see that you liked tonight?
Yeah, I mean, they don't really have a lot of plays yet. They're not really calling a lot of offensive sets, but it's just kind of generally built around ball movement, right? I mean, early in the game they came out and they were just jacking up these contested 19-foot jump shots and they weren't going in, and they got frustrated, and that's why they were down 8-0 and down 14-2, and it kind of snowballed from there. But they kind of built up some confidence, and they started moving the ball, and they started trusting their teammates, and they got some open jump shots later in the game. You know, early in the preseason, I should say, you don't have a lot of plays that the whole team is going to know their playbook and anything like that. But you can just rely on your ball movement, rely on getting open shots, and we started to do that a little bit more as the game went on.
And what we really saw is high post passing. It's not Rondo kind of dribbling around, finding somebody. It's trying to work the ball into good angles and then get cutters kind of working on it. Kind of classic basketball.
Yeah, and Kelly Olynyk was really impressive on that front. I mean, I don't want to compare him to Kevin Garnett just yet because we've only seen one preseason
Let's go ahead
game.
right away. Yeah.
But in terms of being a really good passer and a really good facilitator out of the kind of the point forward position, that's kind of what Olynyk was tonight, and that's kind of what KG was for his 6 years in Boston. It's a stretch, I know, but like that's kind of the role that he played tonight. He had 5 assists leading the team, and
leading the game.
Leading the entire.
Tie with Kyle Lowry for the game lead.
That's pretty
in
impressive.
In his first ever preseason game, yeah.
Nicely done. But yeah, I mean, if they can keep moving the ball like that, if they can have guys like Olynyk, like Gerald Wallace, making the right pass, finding cutters going to the basket, you know, this is not a team full of great jump shooters. A lot of guys on this team shoot 30% from 3. So you're not going to just move the ball and get open threes all the time, but if you get guys cutting and getting open looks, that'll work.
All right, well, Stevens talked about it after the game. This is his first post-game press conference of his entire career. So let's take a look.
I thought we got stagnant some offensively, but we don't have a lot in. But I thought as far as playing in space and spacing and moving the ball, and you know, I thought we got to the rim a couple times and missed. We got a few open looks that hopefully we knocked down over time. And you know, at the end of the game when we had a chance to cut into it, I thought we got pretty good looks. You know, it's the first exhibition game, so we'll see if those go down as we move forward. But you know, I wasn't overly. If I leave tomorrow, or if I start tomorrow working on one thing, it'll be some of our stuff defensively.
So Jared Sullinger was passing the ball really well tonight. It was the Celtics power forwards passing the ball well tonight. He did a lot all over the place, but I mean, his facilitating out of the post was really crucial, as was his offensive rebound.
Yeah, I mean, Sullinger had 6 rebounds and 4 assists. He did a lot of things well for the Celtics tonight. I mean, he just came back from back surgery. He's been out all summer. He hasn't had a lot of chances to rehab. He comes out here, game 1 of the preseason, gives a really good effort. I mean, he was impressive. If they can get more of Sullinger's production, more of Kelly Olynyk's production, they're going to be really, really solid at the power forward spot. I mean, we're seeing interesting combinations with Olynyk and Sullinger together, Olynyk and Sullinger with Gerald Wallace, with Jeff Green, with Vitor Favarani a little bit. I mean, when those guys work together as well as they work at it tonight, good things happen.
Actually, another interesting thing before we move on is how many big men were on the perimeter, literally behind the three-point arc. I can't remember the last time seeing that in the Celtics uniform.
The problem is that none of them are under the basket, which is why they don't get any rebounds ever. But whatever, you win some, you lose some.
But you know, Bass and Hump, they did work pretty hard on the boards throughout the game, even in the first half where they got killed. But Valanciunas was kind of a beast in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, Bass had 4 rebounds total. Humphries had 4. I mean,
it's 3 in the second half for each of them. So they only had 1 in the first half.
Yeah, they could both do better.
Yeah. All right, well, one of the biggest changes, at least for the short term, is Avery Bradley running the point. And we talked to Brad Stevens after the game about this. Pretty much the entire first half of the first quarter and the first half of the third quarter, Bradley was running point, just straight up running pick and roll. He was running as a full-on point guard. But let's hear what Stevens had to say about it after the game.
I'll have to go back and look at that from that specific point of view. I thought Avery did a pretty good job overall. What are you looking at? 3 and he led us in minutes in 32 minutes. Obviously, he'll want to cut down on the turnovers and increase the assists, but I think sometimes when you're playing with a guy who is getting used to that position, it's better to gauge him by hockey assists than assists. And you know, I thought he made a lot of nice plays that led to the next pass.
So Bradley, he's definitely a better ball handler than the last time we saw him. His ball handling was definitely an issue last year. But he has more confidence actually going through the picks and actually trying to penetrate. And it seemed like tonight he was trying to figure out, is he a passing point guard or a scoring point guard?
Yeah, I think that's got to be a major point of emphasis for Bradley and the Celtics this preseason, because if you look at big picture, just watching Avery Bradley the last 3 years, it's been maddening that the Celtics have never really understood what he is in terms of his offensive aspects of his game. We don't know if he's a point guard or a shooting guard, if he's supposed to be off the ball or handling the ball. We don't really know what he can do. Frankly, he's been really bad offensively the last couple of years. I mean, he's a bad shooter, even though people say he's a corner three-point specialist. He's not making those either. He hasn't shot the ball well. He hasn't penetrated well because he gets stuffed because he's 6'1", and you know, it's not going to work. They need to find a way to make him useful offensively, and if they can shape him into a true point guard these next couple of weeks, that'll be a huge, huge step forward. You know, Bradley's a great player on the defensive end, and if you want him to be a good all-around player, you got to find a use for him offensively. So if they can do that this preseason, that'll be really huge.
I mean, the big thing is he doesn't really have much experience running the pick and roll, being a classic style point guard. Because last year, when he was quote unquote running point, he was just bringing the ball up and giving it to Pierce, who was basically running as a point forward.
Yeah.
So being a point guard is the kind of thing that you can't just like prepare for it in practice offseason. You have to get experience, get run doing it in the actual game to really understand the speed of the way that lane's close and open.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't really done that since, I guess, his freshman year at Texas. It's been a while, so he's got to kind of relearn all those skills and play at the NBA level. It's going to be a tough one.
All right, well, let's talk about Jeff Green. It was not what we wanted to see out of Jeff Green tonight.
No, he made his first basket in the third quarter, so that was something.
And he was moving really hard. It wasn't like he wasn't like putting in the effort. It wasn't. Yeah, that was probably a terrible sentence. But
no, I mean, he did move. It's a physical thing that he did.
but it wasn't like he was like hiding in the corner, classic Jeff Green. Or I shouldn't say classic Jeff Green. Old Jeff Green, who basically would disappear from games. He wasn't disappearing from tonight's game. He just couldn't hit anything, and he didn't really get the chance to take a ton of shots after he kind of missed the first few in the first quarter.
Yeah, and the funny thing is we've talked about the versatility of both Jeff Green and Gerald Wallace.
Yeah.
And tonight, Gerald Wallace showed the versatility. He was a slasher, a defender, a rebounder, and Green showed none of that. And so we're starting to see the difference between the two guys. You know, one is an energy guy, and one is more of a pure, he scores or he doesn't score, it's this or that. And we need to see more versatility, like more different things on the floor from Jeff Green. Tonight he had, 4 points? And 6 points, and really not a lot of other things on the floor. He just didn't really do much. He's got a 7.
He was 0 for 4 from deep. So he took a few threes, he missed them all. Besides that, he drove to the rim a couple times, and that was nice. But it wasn't like he was on top of his game tonight. It wasn't like he had command of his offensive arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that game against Miami back in January where he was just exploding to the basket and dunking like 5 times a quarter.
And jumping over everybody.
Yeah, jumping over LeBron James and jamming it in his face. We haven't seen that Jeff Green. I'd love to see that guy show up again. If that happened, we got a whole new ball club.
Yeah, that's a very special. That's an a-hole Jeff Green, as
a-hole Jeff Green. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, let's cut to that clip. He swore at us once again, second time this week. Word right now on TV.
Asshole.
You can use it. Do you think that happened tonight? Do you see it coming?
It's coming. I didn't bring it tonight, obviously, the way I played. But it's coming. It's coming.
Nice show. Thank you, Jeff. So let's take a look at the new guys. The main ones are Hump and Wallace. And they both had, Wallace had a really interesting game.
He did.
Humphries, he had really interesting games. Interesting for both those guys.
Yeah, well, as Humphries said post-game, I believe you asked him about this, he's adjusting to being in a new role. He was next to Brook Lopez last year in Brooklyn. He was the power forward, Brook was the center. He had a really defined role on that team, and now he's got to play back to the basket, he's got to beat up guys who are bigger than him, he's got to score with the back of the basket. It's a different role, and that's going to be kind of an adjustment period for him, as he said. But, you know, I think he can get used to that. I think he's a really good physical player, and he can crash the boards when he needs to. I think he's going to get into that role, and he's going to do better. as you said, Wallace. I mean, he was crash as his nickname dictates. I mean, he was all over the place. He was running, he was jumping, he was getting rebounds. He was a thrill to watch. He was really great.
And his defense in the second half was phenomenal. Rudy Gay, he had a very good game.
Rudy Gay shot
7 for 11 in
somehow.
24 minutes.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, well, he got to the rim a lot tonight. He really did. He was really breaking down the offense, or the Celtics defense, in the first half. But the second half, Wallace, he made a lot of big plays, forced a bunch of turnovers. I think he only got credited with like 1 steal, but he forced like 3 turnovers. They had that one stretch in the third quarter where they had 7 points on 3 straight transition buckets.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all him sparking that.
There was one where Wallace slapped the ball loose and Kelly Olynyk just kind of, oh, this fell into my hands, I'll take it. Yeah, Wallace was a spark plug out there.
Exactly,
definitely.
Yeah. So as you said, he really embodies his nickname. That's what you kind of hope when you give an NBA player a nickname, that it actually fits with them. And he's a guy that definitely fits with him. But I want to talk a little bit about Humphries, especially his defense. So you had him and Bass out there a lot together. And those are 2 guys that are tough barrel-chested guys that can really muscle down low, but neither of them really have the vertical presence defensively. And you saw tonight that the Raptors got to the rim so easily.
Yeah, neither one of those guys can guard Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah.
Not even close. And it really makes you wonder when they're playing against teams with big physical centers, when they're facing a Dwight Howard or a Brook Lopez or an Andrew Bynum or a Vucevic from Orlando. I mean, any of those guys.
Like how you kept Bynum in that list too.
He might play someday again this decade. We don't know. What are they going to do? I mean, they need to find something. I don't know if it's bringing Favarani off the bench and having him play more for defensive reasons, or if it's I don't know what it is. They got to find a way to guard bigger players because it's going to be a huge weakness for them if not.
But at the same time, Valanciunas did foul out of the game.
I don't know how that happened. I mean, he might be the only guy in the league
27 minutes he fouled
out. Jared Solinger, but
exactly.
I don't know.
Solinger had only 3 fouls tonight in 20 minutes, so it's not the worst that he's done, but it's certainly not the best he's done.
There was one where I could have sworn he took a charge. He got completely plowed over, and then he got for a block, and there was no justice in the world.
Maybe he's still a rookie. We just didn't realize it, but the rest of it, so it's all right. But so. Do you think that this defense can actually be effective in the post, given who they have playing right now?
I don't know. I haven't seen enough yet to answer that question. They need to find one really good interior guy. And if Humphries can be that guy, like he's the closest I can find it to anybody who can be close. I don't know. He's got to step up. Somebody else has to step up. Something's got to happen. I don't know.
Well, one thing that was interesting was that Humphries actually got a pretty good reception from the fans. I mean, every Celtics fan said, "Oh, I can't believe Kris Humphries is on the team and all that," because you hate him not really for any good reason. I mean, he fought one of your favorite players when it was kind of it was Rondo's. Rondo really instigated that fight. I mean, he did shove him up against the backboard or stanchion, whatever the heck you call that thing, and then the whole Kardashian thing. But the fact is, he's actually a pretty funny guy. He's a nice guy. So far, all my interactions with him have been very good.
Yeah, no, I think he is a great guy, and I think the Celtics fans will learn to like him a lot. Yeah. But there's always going to be, the Kardashian stuff, like you said. Yeah. I think he's been voted the most hated player in the NBA several times by a lot of publications. I mean,
several times by Jason Terry.
It's not about Rondo, Jason Terry, KG, any of that stuff. I mean, it's the celebrity status. It's the million Twitter followers. There's the whole persona that goes with being Kris Humphries, but people will get over that. He's a good player. He works hard, and he's a humble guy, really. Yeah. So I think people will learn to like him.
All right. Well, let's hear from Hump, especially about the Shiner you probably saw on TV. He talked pregame about that one.
I got poked in practice 2 days ago.
You and Rondo round 2?
That's actually what Bogue said. Nah.
Who poked you?
I don't know. No one will take credit. Sully was down there. There's another guard down there. There's a few people in the paint.
All right, we bring you to the segment that we do every single show because it's baller of the night. Who is your favorite player tonight?
Naturally, I'm going to go with the ninth leading scorer on the team, Kelly Olynyk. I mean, only 4 points, but the guy was all over the place. He was an energy player on both ends of the floor. He was a great passer out of the high post. I think he was really a facilitating guy who made a lot of things happen. And for your first professional game, it's quite an effort. I'll give it to him.
For me, it's Crash. His defense kind of brought them back in the game in the second half, but then, of course, the team was so poor in deep shooting that, of course, they never really got that close. But I loved his effort. I love that he was basically the guy that played like he was a regular season game out there tonight. Solinger definitely did. He gets credit for that, too. He's my honorable mention. But Wallace, he fit in really well with this team. He did a lot of good stuff offensively. He took a couple threes, and they looked terrible. And I guess that's what we're going to come to expect. I think you were telling me during the game he's a 28% 3-point shooter last year.
Yes.
That's a pretty bad. That's like Dwayne Wade territory there.
Yeah, he's like 31 or 32 for his career. He's not very good.
But I mean, what I like though is that he. I think it was Brad Stevens said after the game that in the short time that I've known Wallace, the one thing I know is that he's going to play his heart out.
Yeah.
And he did. And that's what you want. Is if you want to establish yourself on a new team, play your heart out.
And we didn't know what to expect from him because, I mean, he was MIA all summer.
Yeah.
Danny Ainge didn't really meet him until last week.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk much around the locker room. I mean, he's not a guy who appears to be a leader, but then he shows up on the floor and he plays his butt off. I mean, it's what he does. I think, there was some talk that maybe he lost his confidence a little bit last year in Brooklyn because he was kind of overshadowed by Darren Williams and Joe Johnson and all that. But, I mean, right now, he appears to be a guy who can lead by example on this team. They need that.
And he's auditioning for the rest of the year.
He's auditioning for something, yeah.
He was very clear on media today. He definitely wants to win a championship before his time is up. So I wouldn't be surprised if he plays his heart out so that he can be an appealing trade piece to another team.
I don't think his time is up anytime soon. He's, what, 31 years old? 32?
Yeah, he's an athletic player. It's about 31, 32. I mean, he's probably got about 4 years left in him.
Yeah, maybe.
No.
Anyway, he's off to a good start here, so give him that.
Well, it was a weird first night. No Pierce or KG. No Rondo, too. Of course, we didn't see Rondo at all tonight except for warming
on the
up.
bench, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm talking about the media.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, he's not going to talk to the media if he doesn't have to. Yeah, but whatever. We put up with it anyway because he's that good. But I hope you put up with us for the rest of this season. It's going to be a fun one. We got a lot of changes coming. So for Evans Clinchy, I'm Jared Weiss. We'll see you from the next time that we're in the Garden, which is October 23rd against the Brooklyn Nets, when, God forbid, I hope Paul Pierce and KG are not playing that night because January 26th is when the real one's going to happen. But we'll see you then. For Evans, for Jimmy, who's not even here tonight, for me, Jared Weiss, we'll see you next time. This is the Garden Report on Celtics Blog and CLNS Radio.